What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, pretty easy day for us. Overall, I mean, not really a whole lot to say as far as like individual stuff or specific stuff. The one thing that I will say though on this game is that we did something better that I think we haven't really done in quite a few games that really helped us overall, and that's the ball movement. Um, After the game, I watched a post match interview. Hazard was saying that Conte was saying he wanted a lot more movement. It was there, but beyond just movement of the players, the ball movement was so much quicker. And don't get me wrong, it's okay to sort of slow down the play and have a good bit of build up play, but it's the quick ball movement that can really wear out a bunkered defense. And that's what Huddersfield were doing today. They were very bunkered in, trying to be very defensive, and we just moved the ball so quickly that they had to constantly shift back and forth, and it just wears them out. And you could see it was, I mean, it was not exactly easy for us, but it made things so much easier whenever you keep the ball moving like that. It keeps players, you keep shifting the defense back and forth, and eventually a mistake is bound to pop up. And when it does, we have very talented players that can pounce on it. So, yeah, overall, I mean, I'm very pleased with the team's performance and with the fact that we managed to handle this game very easily without a whole lot of issues, no injuries, no sort of like no real sort of strain on our players. And we got to give a couple of our important players a rest as well, so that was good to see. So first of all, we'll talk about the lineup. You got Spilicueta, Christensen, and Rudiger as the back three. Very solid, very strong back three in my opinion. Alonso and Moses are the wing backs. Okay, I already talked about in the January transfer preview earlier that I wanted to see more backup for Alonso because I'm not really sure he's the talent that we need there, but for now, I do think that's okay. Conte, Bakayoko in the middle, that's fine. Conte does a lot of the defensive work. Bakayoko provides a bit more in the attack. So, also good to see Bakayoko does need a bit of a confidence boost. So, good to see he's getting some more time. And then Willian and Pedro in behind Hazard up top. That's a very strong front three. We've seen it utilized before, sometimes effectively, sometimes not effectively. It just depends on the type of game it is. This was the type of game where we needed a lot of movement in the middle, moving the ball around, constantly in and out, and just wearing down the defense, and we did that. There are going to be other games where we need to dump a ball in. We're going to need somebody with a bit more of a body in there, so we'll need somebody like Batshuayi or Murata. But in this game, having that front three really did work. And then on the bench, we didn't really have. I don't know. We had some. Obviously, we had some help on there just in case things went wrong. We had the likes of Fabregas who could come in if we needed him to. Ampadu was on the bench. Drinkwater was on the bench, and those were kind of our midfield options. I want to say Cahill was on the bench, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me see. Caballero, Fabregas, Ampadu, Drinkwater, Batshuayi, Musonda, and I think Cahill was the last one. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but yeah, so those subs, decent sub lineup. You got a couple youngsters you can put in case things get easy. You can give them a chance to show what they can do. You've got some good backup in Fabregas. If you need somebody to be creative, if you need to be a lot more defensive, Cahill, you can throw him out there and move things around a little bit. So yeah, I think overall the lineup was really good. Individuals, start with Courtois. Had to make one very crucial save later in the game that really kept us in it. Ince was through and he tried to chip him and he managed to get a touch on it that deflected it up and Christensen got it away. And that was in a moment where if they had scored there, probably would have given them a little bit of life and created some problems for us for the last, I think it was like 20 minutes left at that point. So yeah, it was good to see that he managed to make that save and keep it at 3-0 at the time. So that's good to see. But then again, we still give away the clean sheet at the end. Not really a whole lot he could do about it. It was mainly on the defense, just not picking up the cross. We've let in way too many diagonal balls like that. Against Tottenham last year, we let that happen way too many times. I think we let one like that happen against Man City this year. We didn't get scored on from it, but we just let crosses like that come in way too often. The wingback needs to step to it and pressure it. and then Rudiger lost his man for a second, and that guy was able to flick it on to the back post. So not really much Courtois could do there, but at the same time, it's still kind of like, let's keep a clean sheet if we can. And you could see his frustration with it. I understand the frustration. So hopefully the frustration of not getting a clean sheet does sort of inspire him to keep working hard and keep improving. Because I've talked about how a lot of the time he doesn't really make those crucial saves that we need him to make. He makes the ones that he should be making. The ones that are at him. He'll make those a lot of the time. So, yeah. As far as the back line is concerned, all three of them played well. Rudiger did have a few moments where it kind of got a little bit worrisome, just as far as like his touch at times can be a little bit sporadic. But overall, I mean, his hard work is there. He's doing very, very good job of covering the back line, and even when they get in behind him, it's very much he's got it covered. He's gonna run back. He's gonna run him down. He's got the physical ability to do it. Christensen does a very good job in the middle of kind of keeping things calm. He provides an outlet. If anybody gets him behind Azpilicueta or Rudiger, he's there to cut him out. If they need somebody to drop to, he's almost always there. So yeah, very good, very confident, especially as I've said before, he's very young, 21 years old. So very good to see we already have somebody stepping into that role that can be a leader. And there's Azpilicueta, just that constant hard work. One of the things he really provided for us tonight, though, was that ball across the field to Alonso. I talked about before the ball movement, keeping that ball shifted, keeping the defense shifting as well. Azpilicueta provided a lot of that tonight. And I do remember against West Ham, a lot of the time it came out to him and it felt like he was slowing it down a lot of the time. And this one, it's like he was told, let's get the ball moving. And so every single time he got the ball, it felt like one touch play, one touch play. So, yeah, it was very good to see from him. A lot more attacking intent, a lot more keeping the ball moving. So that way Huddersfield had to work very hard to track everything. So, but yeah, very solid performance from the back three. Just disappointing that we gave up a late goal to not keep the clean sheet. On the wing backs, Alonso, probably the most average performer tonight for me, just because he did provide a couple really good balls in, good crosses, but there's still quite a few that were terrible. One way out of bounds, five right into a defender. Just not enough overall. When half of your crosses are good and then half of them are absolutely terrible, you want to see, okay, half of them are good, a few of them are okay, but not really in a dangerous position, and one or two are bad. But when half of them are bad, that's when things really start to get worrying. On top of that, a lot of the time getting caught out of position. Yes, we have enough in the back line to keep from really having to worry about working defensively, but there's still a lot of the time whenever they started looking dangerous in a couple moments in the first half and then a couple moments in the second half, you want your wingbacks to be back there sort of to show it's okay. Even if they start to attack us, we're still good. But Alonso, it felt like, was always behind the play. He's always making the tackle that's going to put one of the strikers through, most of the time. So, yeah, I just kind of frustrating for me that he's still not quite hitting the heights that I've seen him hit before, especially in a game like this where it's pretty easy overall. He's still just looking pretty average out there. So it just sort of strengthens my argument from earlier, saying that we need better options at the left wing back role when we go to January, look at the transfer window. It just kind of proves my point that we need something else there because Alonso is just not the quality that we need to be champions. Looking to the other side, Moses, pretty good overall from him. Nothing really spectacular from him overall tonight, but he worked very hard, put himself in a lot of dangerous positions. He definitely forced the back line to have to really work to keep him in check. Because that's one of the things both Alonso and Moses did very well was provide the width for us. Like I said, Azpilicueta kept finding Alonso on that far side. Rudiger a couple times found Moses on the far side. So they both found the width, but the question is, how much pressure do you put on the defense once you get the ball? For Alonso, it's often you just have to make sure he doesn't take a touch and cross it. You don't really have to contain him. Moses, you have to contain him. If you don't put instant pressure on him as soon as he gets a touch on it, there's a good chance he could turn you, he could take a touch past you and go at you with speed. I mean, he's got a lot in his locker that really hurt the defense. On top of that, his defensive work rate is really good too. He'll work back, he'll get back and put pressure on one of the defenders. Most of the time, he does a very good job too of not just going back and then kicking the ball as soon as he gets to it. He'll actually work getting around and putting himself behind it so that way they can't head towards our goal. And even if he does make a tackle, now it's out of bounds instead of flicking it down the line towards our goal. So that's just Moses obviously has shown a lot more than Alonso over the past 2 seasons, but tonight sort of showed me exactly what they both bring. What Moses brings more than Alonso does on the other side. So into the middle, you got Conte and Bakayoko. First, talk about Bakayoko because he's the one that's been under a lot of criticism lately. Obviously, getting the goal hopefully will help his confidence a bit more. But overall, just it was a good performance. It did well defensively, did well to hold the ball up with strength as well, and that's what we need out of him. He's coming in to replace Matic, who isn't exactly the greatest player, but defensively he's very strong. He's very good at winning the ball out of the air, and he was very good at keeping possession with his strength. Bakayoko's starting to show a little bit more of that in this game, so I hope he can take this momentum and keep going and keep growing because he does have that ability. It's just the youth and the inexperience has shown in the past few games, and that's what a lot of people have picked up upon. So I'm hoping that this sort of helps him grow over those mistakes and get over that part of his game. Conte, Conte. That's about all I can say about him. He did what Conte normally does. We'll move on. Pedro and Willian, both of them had good games, but in different respects. I think Willian had a better game in the way he moved the ball. He did a very good job of linking up with Hazard, finding good passes, and just keeping the ball moving in a way that forced the defense to have to keep moving around the field. Pedro had a good game, but less with the ball movement, more with his movement. Whether he's tracking down the ball, trying to keep a Huddersfield player from breaking out, or whether he's on the ball and running with it, waiting for an option to pop open for him. Both of them did very well in their own respect, and both of them brought something a little bit different, which forced the defense to have to really adjust how they played. Because one moment, Williams on the right side, Pedro's on the left, and then all of a sudden they swap, so the defenders now have to adjust how they're playing against these two players. With William, you have to put in a challenge on him, or else he's going to go past you and go with speed. With Pedro, you can't put in a challenge on him because there's a good chance he's going to flick it around you, so you have to just force him to go backwards with it. So yeah, I really like the fact that we've got two different options, and they both utilize that very well. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that Hazard's up top, and his link-up play is it's brilliant. It's something that with Willian and with Pedro, both of them bring their own individual things, but unless you have somebody in the middle between them that can link them up as well, you don't really have much going for you. We've seen it before. It was Pedro, Willian, and then Murata. Murata's just a typical center forward trying to get him behind the defense, waiting for somebody to play him in behind, but he never really linked the two up. They were always their own individual players, and it never really felt like it was coming together. In this one, it felt like all three of them were just playing together. They play with their own individual style, but it all works so fluidly that it forces the defense to really have to be on top of their game because one little mistake and they're in. So I really like the fact that we managed to have all of that going for us. The only thing that I'll say as far as complaint is concerned is with Pedro. He's typically been a very attack-minded player of the three. Hazard is willing to drop in and sort of play there. Willian is very willing to drop and help out defensively. Pedro is willing to do that sometimes too, but realistically, out of the three, the one that's looking to get in behind the most often is Pedro. That's just, he has that sort of mindset. He's willing to get in, nip in behind. He was called offsides like 5 different times in this game because of that. There were several times where it felt like Hazard is looking for that ball, whether it's a flick on, whether he's looking to cross it in. There were like 3 or 4 times in the first half alone that Hazard's looking for that ball, and all I'm thinking is, normally Pedro's there. Normally Pedro reads that and he's there, but for some reason today he wasn't. And it didn't really hurt us in the end, but it was just something that I noticed that kind of made me go, what's going on with that? Why isn't he aware of that? Normally he is. So I don't know, just something I wanted to point out. It was something that was a little bit disappointing because I felt like a couple of these instances happened when it was still 0-0. So a couple of chances to put us up early that didn't come off because Pedro didn't really seem alive to what was going on, the flick on from Hazard. So part of that could just be because they haven't really played together that often this season. But I'm really hoping that this isn't some sort of sign that like Pedro is starting to drop off, because I mean it was a really nice finish from him, and that's what he can bring to the field sometimes. But yeah, if he's not providing much outside of just an occasional really good finish, then that's about it. Um, so now we'll talk a bit about the subs that came on, just real fast. I did like the subs because you got Batshuayi coming on for Hazard, so you give Hazard a rest, that's good, and you give Batshuayi some time, that's also good. You've got Drinkwater coming on for Conte. You give Drinkwater some time, you give Conte a rest, that's good. And then you got Ampadu coming on for Christensen. Probably the only one that I disagreed with. Not because I do think Christensen probably does deserve a rest. He's been playing a lot of games in a row, and he's been playing very well too. So I don't mind seeing Christian get some rest, but I don't know about putting Ampadu there. Because while he is a good player, I've seen some good things out of him. I think that the main thing for me, you don't put your young player as the center of the defense. Christensen is different because we've seen he has the mindset of a veteran. He plays like he's been playing for years and years and years. Ampadu, he does look like he's played for a bit. He does look like he's only 17. He looks like he's early 20s as far as his play is concerned, but he doesn't look as confident. He plays more like David Luiz, and that style of player can sometimes hurt you when he's in the middle and he's the one that's dropped deep. So when you've been playing with a player who's almost like a sweeper in Christensen, who does a very good job of dropping off and sort of being the cover for both defenders, you put somebody in there who's like a David Luiz type player who likes to get up and is more of a stopper. Well, now that changes your entire defensive setup. Now instead of Rudiger and Azpilicueta being the ones that drive forward and Christensen being the drop off, now Rudiger and Azpilicueta have to be the cover because Ampadu wants to get up and be that type of player. So I just didn't think that style fit him. So I was a bit disappointed to see him go in there. I would have preferred to see either Willian or Pedro, preferably Pedro, come off, and then Ampadu come in and form like a midfield three pairing, or even have Musonda come on as for Willian or Pedro. Just because I think Willian, I thought, worked his socks off and deserved a bit of a rest. Pedro, I thought, for that section of the game was starting to drop off a bit, so I thought it would be better to take one of those two off, even though Christensen does need a bit of a rest. But we do have a couple games coming up that aren't as important. I think you could give Christensen that rest in, but to change the style of the back three the way he did really sort of hurt us near the end, because Huddersfield started getting a lot more joy and it started forcing our back line to play a little bit differently. So I don't know, just it ended up being a minor thing. Yes, the clean sheet is sort of a big thing overall, but it didn't really hurt us on the whole of it. So. But that's about it for me. Obviously, we've got several games coming up back to 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 back. Southampton, I think, at home on the weekend. So that one is a game where we should win. But then again, Southampton have shown they do have a bit of a fight in them over the past few games. So we've got to be 100% ready. Hopefully we are. But anyway, that's about it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know. We can talk about it and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.